I am the queen of my throne. I am the queen of my throne. I am the queen of my throne. I am the queen of my throne.
And welcome to What's Really Going On. And today's topic is a little bit edgy. It's a little bit where you normally tiptoe around, right?
Sensitive area, a little
Yeah.
emotional.
But that's what we do on our show. We kind of pick topics that are a little bit hard to talk about so we can educate people and bring awareness to them. And so today's topic is about suicide. So suicide awareness. And our guests, they have a lot of experience. They have a lot of heart and awareness about this topic. So I mean, that's what we're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, it's important to know that you matter. We go through a lot in life, a lot of different experiences, and emotionally, we should be able to talk to our loved ones and share how we're feeling and get through it together.
That's the words of wisdom by Winteezy. All right, let's get to our show. So we're gonna find out now what's really going on from Portia from Washington D.C. You have a very unique way of talking about suicide and its awareness. So tell us how you kind of came about this kind of awareness of suicide and then bringing it to the world because it's a very different approach.
Well, I had lived experience.
Mhm.
That's what brought me to it. I had no idea why I was going through the things that I was going through in life. Um, and then once I made the decision that I was done, that I was tired after reaching out to countless people for help and not receiving any back, I decided to attempt. I took a whole bottle of pills, the very same ones that the doctor had prescribed me to be on.
Dang.
And with a clear wish to die. I knew exactly what I felt in that moment.
Mhm.
After about 2 years of therapy, I had went through a training called Assist, and it's what I teach now. It's Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. Now, the training, it was amazing, but it was more amazing because my instructors had experience. They were FBI negotiators. So it made the class extremely interesting. And so for the last year, I have been conducting suicide interventions for 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 myself, for my company, by myself, and not really taking a log of names or anything like that, but just getting the experience in. And to date, we've saved over 123 lives
Oh
in a
my
year's
God.
time with the conversation. So
Yeah.
it's one of the most meaningful conversations that one can have, and I'm
So
just
So,
excited.
Portia, I want to pay attention to the exact like wording that you use because you said you don't call them like survivors or what is it like it
Oh, we don't say commit suicide.
yeah what
Yeah.
is the terminology behind that or the reasoning?
So this is fairly new within our community. Committing suicide is basically attached to a negative connotation. When you think when someone's about to commit something, it's usually a crime attached to it. But when
Mm,
it comes to suicide, suicide isn't something that you commit. It is a direct result of depression, untreated depression, and
mm,
extreme grief. So we don't want to say commit suicide. We like to use words like complete suicide and or attempt suicide.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it could
that's
be
a whole
offensive.
different
Yeah.
perspective, right?
It could
So
offend someone that has lost somebody to suicide, or someone currently going through it, and we want to be careful on how to use those words.
hmm,
Can I ask you something in further with that? Like, were there certain people you like outcried to, or kind of where they got hints to your situation, or did you feel like you were alone in that process? Like, were there people around you that were like, I think something's going on, and how the people around us can be more educated and step in and intervene? Anyone?
So, um, most of the time, most of the time when someone is thinking about suicide, they reach out to the people closest to them. It's
Right.
not always the medical professionals or the suicide crisis line and things like that, because sometimes they're ashamed. And so they want to talk to somebody close to them. Me, I tried 4 different people. I tried my
hmm,
mom, who told me that her Atlanta Housewives was on and I needed to get off her phone, and hung up on
oh
me.
gosh.
Oh
I
wow.
tried my dad,
Yeah.
who felt like Jesus would fix everything, but I had only been hearing that my whole life.
Right.
I tried my sister who threatened to call the police, and I tried my doctor. I told my doctor, doctor burnout is such a real thing. Not even doctor, caregiver burnout is really big because they get so much of it. Sometimes they're desensitized to it, right? And so I reached out to her and I told her, I'm tired of living. I don't want to do it anymore. And she looked me in my face and told me she was going to up my meds and sent me out the door. I don't even take medication.
Oh, wow.
So what?
So at that moment, I felt like I had nobody. After trying to reach out to everybody close to me and not getting any response, I felt like I had no one.
Yeah. So what do you think like is the message then, like for loved ones who are close, and somebody does reach out to them? What are kind of the things that you listen for now that you've had like this training?
So, and yeah, this is exactly what I teach in my training. There are a few things. Don't be judgmental. Don't downplay their pain. Everyone's perception is their reality. So if they just lost their dog and they feel like they want to attempt or they don't want to live anymore, don't make it seem like, oh, well, that's just a dog. It'll be fine. No, but that was the world to them.
Right.
Your attitudes are very important when it comes to conducting an intervention, because a lot of the times you can push people further away. Over 80% of people reach out before they completed suicide. And it's just about the response that you get back. You have to listen. A lot of the times, as human nature, we want to solve problems. If somebody comes to you with a problem, you want to say, okay, here's your solution. But when it comes to a suicide intervention, people want to get that pain out. They want to talk about what's bothering them, what's hurting them. Let them talk. My favorite acronym is 4 letters, WAIT, wait. And it stands for why am I talking?
Mainly
listening. Be a listener.
Yeah.
Good listener.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Want to be heard.
So let me ask you this though, because I think, even me, like, a lot of times that conversation, even like the word suicide, it can be scary. I know some people, they don't even want to like say it. They'll be like, oh, it's the S word. What do you feel about that? Like, is it okay to even say the word?
It's definitely okay to say the word. I love to say the word. I say the word all the time. I might wake up out my sleep and say the word because I want to normalize it. We are getting to a point where it's time to talk about it. This isn't anything that we want to hide anymore in a closet. It's not anything that is not that is unreal. We have over 47,000 reported suicides, but then you got to think there are so many suicides that are not reported because of shame or insurance, or whether people know whether it was a suicide or not, especially when we talk about these car accidents and things of that sort. There's so many different things out there.
Right. I didn't think about that.
Right.
The accidents that maybe aren't. Right.
Yeah, that could have very well possibly been, I'm tired. And they'll say, I'm tired. They'll say it. No one, and when it comes to the body, you can lie with your mouth, but you cannot lie with your entire body. The people that are going to see the signs that you are suicidal are going to be the person closest to you. For example, I was a smiler. I am a smiler, even still to this day. It doesn't matter what's going on. Military Baron taught me that regardless of what happened, I don't react. So when I'm out in the world, I'm smiles, I'm hey, I'm this, I'm that. In the same notion, everything can be burning down at home and I'm losing my mind. But my cousin that was living here, had he been taught the signs, he would have seen it. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't showering. I wasn't cleaning up. I wasn't cooking. You know?
Yeah.
Those are a lot of signs that come with that, with extreme depression, and I just think that get it out there, say it. Don't beat around the bush. Just ask, hey, are you thinking about suicide? And if you are not ready to have that conversation, it's okay. It's a text line number, 741-741. You can text if you don't want to talk, or you can call the National Crisis Line, which is 1-800-273-8255. And I know vets for warriors, for veterans, you can call them. You can call them once a day to just have a conversation. You don't even have to be in actual crises, and I don't have that actual number on hand.
Yeah, we can get that up.
That's for warriors. And
that's for warriors. Okay, we'll make sure and put that up on our page.
And then the main thing
So-
is just not to feel ashamed, not to feel ashamed about your feelings and your emotions. That's something we pride and teach, my family, we teach our children, like, to not be ashamed. Your emotions matter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
They do.
and so I'm glad that you brought up, that you're a veteran yourself. So you served in the Navy, and
Yeah.
so would you say? I mean, we're just about out of time here, but would you say when you're kind of packaging your message, do you have to change it for the audience? I mean, whether you're dealing with like
Yeah.
children, veterans,
Yes.
women, men, like what would you say? Like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you package
Yes.
it?
When it comes to veterans, I speak about things veteran related, and I give a lot of veteran resources. The resources are always going to be different. When it comes to children, children don't like to talk as much or don't want to talk to adults. So I give them options and ways to be able to talk to the people that they need to talk to without feeling uncomfortable. When it comes to parents, I like to talk to them because communication is essential. Communicating with your kids and listening to them. Sometimes we get so caught up in being parents and we think that we know everything. We forget that these little humans have emotions too. And sometimes they hide them, So these conversations are necessary. I change the resources for each demographic. When I'm talking to children, I put it in childlike terms so that they can understand.
Yeah.
But my messages are always still the same.
So absolutely, and for anybody that's trying to get a hold of you, we have your website, www.restorelifellc.com, and also your Instagram is at p_told_you.
Yep.
And we'll make sure we get those up so anybody who's trying to reach you. And it's just been a pleasure having you on our show today and letting us know what's really going on with suicide awareness. So thank you so much. And anything you want to leave us with, your words of wisdom.
Yes, it's okay not to be okay. That's one of my biggest messages. If you're not okay, that's okay. You don't have to carry it all by yourself. We're here. On my site, you can sign up for one of my classes to learn how to have the suicide intervention conversation, or you can request me as a guest speaker, or if you just need to talk because you're having feelings and you want to talk about them, you can also do that there as well. Peace and love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much, Portia.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
And welcome to our show, Just On from Los Angeles. And you're going to talk to us a little bit about what's really going on from your perspective with suicide awareness. So you've kind of been in the military and now out there in Los Angeles as an actor. So you have a different take on suicide awareness.
Yeah, so I've had two unfortunate friends of mine commit suicide while I was in the military and while I was out too. And it's a difficult thing to deal with. The military likes to preach and teach like it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and that's true. But there's a lot more that goes underneath that they don't really like to teach, or maybe they're trying to teach nowadays that it's okay to talk about your feelings, it's okay to reach out to people. If you don't do that, then it forces you to stay depressed and continue down a rabbit hole that you don't want to visit. Nobody wants to be there. I've been there. I've actually attempted suicide numerous times, and when I was going through rough times in my life, and like I didn't really understand it until I was going through it. Like when my buddy Justin killed himself in the military, he was going through rough times, and he chose not to reach out. And I was upset with him for a long time because there's a lot of anger that comes with it when one of your friends kills themselves or takes their own life. When I stopped being angry was when I reached a point where I was depressed, and it like dawned on me. It was like, wow, this is where his headspace is at. So it was like there's an understanding that came with that. Fortunately, I chose to reach out and talk with my friends, go to counseling and things like that. But yeah.
So just to clarify, because I mean, you mentioned an interesting aspect of it. So the anger, was that more so at yourself? Like, did you blame yourself for that, or was it angry like at him for not like? Why would he do that? Why would he leave you? I mean, because grief shows its face in so many ways. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it's both. Both angry at him for like leaving not just me behind, but his other friends and family. But
Yeah.
there is anger for me from like being angry at myself for maybe trying to like think harder about if it was preventable, if there were signs that I didn't like cue into. Because actually, the night that he took his own life, I was driving from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to I'm sorry, Fort Knox, to Fort Campbell. Oh, he called me. Like that. He didn't sound like he was depressed or anything like that. He sounded like he normally sounded. And we talked for a little bit. And at one point in the conversation, I was just like, "Hey, man, like I kind of just want to jam out some music and continue enjoy my drive. But we're gonna see you tomorrow. We had plans to see each other the next day and hang out. So yeah, there's definitely an anger at myself for not like staying on the phone with him longer. Maybe if I did that, he might have like you know talked to me about what he was going through and like. But it's a very tough thing to deal with and tough thing to like navigate. But I had this idea for like an app that might help prevent this from happening in the future.
Oh yeah.
I would call it like alert roster, and
Mm.
the app's responsibility. The person, everybody would have to download this app, and when somebody's like going through or off time, like yeah, they have this 1-800 number to call. Honestly, I called before. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
listen to somebody off the script. You'd rather talk with your friends. But me being depressed and like I think the second suicide attempt, I I was actually calling all of my friends. I called like 10 people and nobody answered the phone. And it's like you when you're depressed and you're going and you're contemplating suicide, you're like you're in this headspace where it's almost a selfish headspace, and you're like when you're calling your friends and nobody's answering, you're not thinking about like they might be busy doing something. Maybe they're at a movie. Maybe they're
Right.
with the family
Yeah.
at work. They're tied up. But I think that if everybody had this app, and like if somebody's feeling like depressed and they need to talk, you press one button and it calls 10 people up to 9 people that you've entered in your phone through the app, and then the people on the other end are getting the call from the app, so they know that this is like this is
Serious.
I need
Yeah.
to
Right.
the first person that picks up gets to talk to the person. Anyone that picks up afterwards gets to listen in. There'll be a tag out button. Anybody listening in too, if they feel like this person might actually commit suicide, there's a dispatch 911 button. Also, the person talking has that option too.
Wow.
It'd be linked in with your GPS, so people would the police would be able to get there extremely quickly. Um, it's still just an idea. I haven't
Yeah,
like
no, that
Yeah, that's
sounds
interesting. That's great.
amazing. And
yeah.
just I think you hit on a couple different aspects. It's like when you are reaching out and people just, a lot of times, yeah, you could be in the grocery store or you could be doing other things, and like you get that call and you're like, I'll call them back. But you're right. I mean, if you got the call from the app, it's like,
You already
oh,
know.
dang, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you already kind of know, I got to take this call. I got to take it now.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a really, really great idea. Um, what do you think? When you said you've experienced like this depression, and I myself, have been in depression, and I think like coming from the military, like you were saying, a lot of times we're taught like try to get through it and you can tough it out and all this stuff. But do you think that now is that kind of changing? I mean, because you're able to kind of talk to service members about it, other friends. Do you think that stigma is changing at least?
I mean, I think it. I don't know if it's like I know it's changed for me, but like for people who are still in and like still have to deal with possibly the societal impact of being in the military and having to be strong. and like that being like instilled in people, and like when you're into, if you're in a leadership position, you're hesitant to go like talk to a counselor about like things you're going through because
Yeah.
you have the other aspect and stigma of like you need to set the example for your
Right.
soldiers. You want them to see you strong too. I think it's slowly changing. I'm not sure about the military side of it because I'm not in the military anymore. I know it has definitely changed for me in the aspect of like, I had that actually the deal with some of the guys that I've been overseas with is like we call each other and make sure to call each other back, and the last resort call that 1-800 number, even though none of us like to because it's like it's there and it serves a purpose, and
Right.
I'm sure there have been people on the other end of that 100 number who have helped people and talked them out of stuff. It's just weird for some of us who have been like to war and like have seen certain things, and it's like I don't want to talk to somebody who may or may not understand
Right.
where my headspace is at.
Yeah, I like how you said that too, that, you know, you don't really want to talk to somebody who's reading from a script, you know, and I think it's like they're doing their best, you know, and I think you're right, they do help a certain number of people, but sometimes it's like you want to talk to somebody who kind of understands what you're going through, or at least some aspect of what you've been through.
Right.
Do you find it like, I know I'm hearing from the perspective of contact or speaking to someone, you know, you're comfortable talking to a friend or a family member, the people close to you you want to reach out to. Do you find even if those times are difficult to contact somebody, do you find other resources like maybe working out or listening to some music just to get your mind to think about different things where you're not just so focused on that immediate depressed, you know, the feeling, you know, what are there things, outlets that you utilize to get through things?
Something that like I've tried to tell myself is like when I'm having these feelings, just telling myself these are normal feelings. Like it's part of human mentality to have negative thoughts and
Right.
feel depressed. Obviously, like there's this like idea that being depressed and having negative thoughts is a bad thing. And you know what? To some aspect that is true. However, people I feel like don't understand that feelings are feelings and they're okay to. It's okay not to be okay sometimes. It's okay to like sit there and cry and like let it out and
Right.
or call somebody and have a discussion about it, or like I think there needs to be more education from that aspect of
Right.
just because there's another like idea of like when people get depressed, they say I'm depressed and they identify with being depressed. It's like it's better to just detach yourself from that and detach your identity with being depressed and just understand that like there is depression. It exists.
Right.
It's affecting you at this moment. It doesn't the moment you try to stop identifying with it, I feel like is when you can learn to grow from it and learn that it's okay to have these feelings.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. Like, it's not necessarily an identity. It's just like this moment in time, maybe that you're experiencing. So we're just about actually out of time. I want to make sure if anybody, does, if you touch them and they spoke out, or they heard what you had to say, they can find you at your Instagram, which is at just on RG. We'll put it up on the screen, but that's JUSTONRG. And so they can reach out and find you and see what you're doing and what you're involved in. And just any last thoughts or takeaways of what's really going on?
Yeah, well, you also asked if my other outlets, I guess, it's just comedy. Like, I like to write comedy and joke and be silly. Like, that's
Laughing.
the outlet for dealing with it, and dealing with all the negativity in my life.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I like doing that, put on a good comedy. Well, I like romantic comedies, but, that's me. So, All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been great having you. And that's what's really going on with Justin from Los Angeles. Thank you so
All right,
much.
bye.
Bye. Well, hey, we had two really amazing guests, and they had such wonderful advice, really, and just like speaking from their experience, their hearts.
Yeah,
and
just-
that's what touched me the
Just
most.
great perspectives on just the awareness about it. It's okay to have negative feelings, like our guest just said. It's okay to have those negative feelings and identify what you're feeling and what's going on, but just find somebody to talk to because you matter. So make sure you find that outlet or someone close to you to talk to and reach out to.
Right, and if anybody knows how to build that app, I mean, that just Don was talking about, that
Yeah,
would
the
be
app.
phenomenal. But I mean, have people on your speed dial, and I guess let them know that that for now, since we don't have an app, let them know that they're on your list. And if you do call them, like pick up the phone.
Yeah, answer the phone, call them
Right.
back, or even have a code name, or think of a name that you can text somebody, like
Good
that you
idea.
guys can identify with, and when you text that name or a word, that they know that I need to pick up and call you and talk to you and see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So thank you to our guests. That's what's really going on with suicide awareness.
I am the queen of my throne. 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 They gon' hate when we get on. They gon' hate when we get on. They gon' hate when we get on. They gon' hate when we get on.